Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back for another video. And so today I'm joined with Nicole from that goes under the handle Former Fat Girl on YouTube and Instagram. I'm going to be interviewing her today. I've just come from an interview on her channel, which you can check out. Um, so let's get started. Let's get straight into it. So Nicole, thank you for coming on the channel. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into, I guess, the low carb, ketogenic, or carnivore space?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. It's Joff is in the future on a Sunday morning. It's my Saturday night. So
That's
he's
right.
starting his day. I'm ending my day. Um, but yeah, it's kind of a long, convoluted story. I did have a sugar addiction. So my brother passed away when I was 11 years old. And um I kind of use food as a comfort because when you're 11, my parents just lost their child, so I
Yeah.
was kind of left on my own, and I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know what to do with these emotions, so I kind of just brushed it off, ignored it, and just ate some
Mm.
chocolate, and that's kind of how I just dealt with it. Um, so I think that's kind of where the health, I guess, crisis started. But of course, it didn't catch up to me until I got older. But I think that's kind of the root of kind of what led me down the path that I soon took. So I was an athlete growing up. I did all the things. I ran track, played basketball, softball. I guess you would call myself a tomboy. I don't know if tomboy is a label still in 2023, but back when I was a kid, I was a
Yep.
tomboy.
Yep.
Um, so I never struggled with my weight. I was always super active. Back in the 80s, kids were outside playing. We didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones. We were outside until it was time to eat. Then we went in and ate dinner, but we were outside from the time we got home from school until it was time to eat dinner. So I was very active, I was very fit. Um, but when I was 20, right before my 21st birthday, I actually never told this story on YouTube. September 11th, 2001, planes hit the towers in New
Yeah.
York City. That was a day I was supposed to leave for basic training for the Air Force.
Right.
Um, so I kind of didn't leave that day because
Yeah.
things
Wow.
happened.
All right.
But I did spend 14 years in the Air Force. I was a cop. So again, very fit, PT, physical training, like every morning and all these things. But my diet was still crap. Like
Mm.
throughout my life, my diet was the same. Processed foods, just junky foods like the Swedish fish, the candy. It was just crap. But what saved me is I was able to outwork my bad diet, right? Because I was extremely active. And that held true when I was in the Air Force too, because I was a cop. So I wasn't in a desk job, I wasn't sedentary. I was out patrolling and doing things. Fast forward, I was in the Air Force for 14 years. My last year, I got out in 2016. My last PT test, I shall say, was I got out in March of 2016. My last PT
Mm.
test was the end of 2015.
Right.
I failed. It was one and only PT test, physical training test I've ever failed in my entire career.
Right.
For the Air Force, it's a mile and a half run, push-ups, sit-ups, as many as you can do in a minute, but of course there's minimums and maximums, and
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
tape your waist. Um, the run
Wow.
was always struggle for me because I was a sprinter when I ran track. I was fast as hell, right? I had
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
fast twitch muscles. I was very
Yeah.
fast, but you tell me to run a mile, I requested Uber. So distance was not my friend. So I always passed the run, but the run out of all of that was usually the area that gave me the most trouble.
Right.
But I passed that. I passed everything. I busted tape. So the maximum our waist measurement can be as a woman, I don't know if it's still the same now because this was a long time ago, but it was 35 inches.
Right.
I think if I remember correctly, I was 38 inches. They did make you step on the scale, but your weight didn't count. unless you busted tape, but I busted weight too, so that didn't really help me.
Right.
But my weight when I stepped on the scale was 170 something. Now that wasn't my
Right.
heaviest. I'm 5 feet short, so I'm 60 inches. So
Oh,
I was 170 something.
right. Right.
So I got out of the military with a failed PT test. I was pretty pissed off. Because I'm very competitive. I never want to
Yeah. Yeah.
fail. But I didn't stop gaining weight. I was even less active getting out of the military. I didn't
Yeah.
have people telling me to run. I didn't have PT tests to train for. I didn't have anything. So at my heaviest, fast forward, at my heaviest, I was 200, I think about 200 pounds. Again, 5 feet short. So
5 feet.
about,
Yeah.
I was about 85 pounds overweight, give or take. Um, so I did go vegan for 4 years because I thought that's healthy. So I watched a documentary, Game Changers, which I think came out in 2017. So
Yeah.
I went vegan in 2017, actually the day I watched that. So
Wow.
I watched Game Changers. I went vegan. So from 2017 to 2021, so I guess 2 years ago, I was vegan. Because for me it was ethical. Like I love animals, even still to this day I eat animals, yes, but I still want them treated ethically, humanely. Like I
Yes.
don't so I went vegan for 4 years because I thought that was healthy and I thought that's what I had to do to drop this weight. I gained even more weight. I had a ton of inflammation. I had a ton of digestive issues, which I'll get into. And then fast forward to or rewind a year to 2020 when
Mm.
the world shut down.
Yeah.
At the time, I was working as a federal government contractor in the Northern Virginia area where I live, and I was furloughed, meaning I wasn't working. um,
Yeah.
because the government essentially was on skeleton crew, like we shut
Right.
down.
Right.
And because of the CARES Act here in the United States, there was an entry in there. I don't know the exact words, but essentially, as a contractor, we were still paid our full salary even when we weren't working because of the circumstances. So I wasn't working, but I was still getting paid. I say
Right.
that because from March of 20 or April 2020 until I think it was September of 2020, so that almost most of that year time period, I call myself a professional athlete because at the time I was doing CrossFit and the our gym owner had a garage gym and he would let 2 or 3 people at a time go to his house and use his gym. His house was about 2 miles from me, so it was super easy. So I was working out, busting my
Mm,
butt. I
mm.
was restricting, calories. I was still, doing vegan. I was close to being off vegan, but I was restricting calories. I was working out. So I started dropping the weight. That's when my weight
Yeah.
loss started. Um, and then I decided to get certified that same year in nutrition to help me continue to drop the weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to see what I was doing wrong because I was restricting myself, depriving myself, and working out pretty much every day for like an hour and a half, 2 hours a day because I had nothing better to do. And I knew that wasn't sustainable. So I got certified to help me continue to lose my weight. Um, I'm not going to get into all the training, just standard American diet. We all know fiber.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was doing all the right things I thought. I was doing the plant-based diet still. I was working out. I was doing all the things I thought I could do. But I just wasn't feeling good. Um, so I decided actually earlier this year. So it's been about 8 months, 8, 9 months. I lost track, but it's been since the beginning of this year. Um, like I think around March, April timeframe, I started maybe March timeframe, February, I started low carb. I stumbled across Dr. Ken Berry and Bart K. I think Ken Berry first on YouTube. And I watched some of his videos and then I went and I binge watched Bart K's like literally entire channel. And he makes complicated processes simple for people to understand. And of course, I'm educated in nutrition, like formally, so
Mm.
I had a basic understanding of a lot of these things, but the training goes against biological and physiological functions in a lot of instances. So what he was saying made a lot of sense based off what I knew, the because we're taught biochemistry, biology, physiology, but on a basic level, like you're a nurse, so not the
Mm.
whole course, just as it pertains to nutrition and nutrient absorption and how our body converts energy and metabolic functions. Like that's the basic of our
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we're taught.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a basic, super basic level understanding. So I binge watched this whole thing and I was like, huh, that makes a lot of sense. But that's going against mostly everything we were told our entire lives. So I did my own research. I took what they said and it made sense. So I dug down the rabbit hole. I came across Brenda Fetke and Nina Teicholz and the history of the guidelines. And I think that's really what solidified it for me was Nina Teicholz and Brenda Fetke. If you guys haven't heard of
Yeah.
her, like
Yeah.
she does a great job too. But I think Nina Teicholz and her getting into the Dietetic Association, the guidelines and just the behind the scenes funding things, I think is what really sealed the deal for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just give this a go for 30 days and just see what happens. After about 30 days, I already started noticing difference. So similar to you, I had high blood pressure. I was clinically obese. Obviously, I'm 5 feet and I was freaking 200
Yeah.
pounds for crying out loud. Um, I had sleep apnea because of my weight. So I did have the CPAP machine, all that stuff. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if I had prediabetes. I wasn't tested.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
never tested, but it would not surprise me if I had
Yeah.
it. If I
Yeah.
didn't have it, I was probably knocking on the door. Um, so and I was constantly inflamed. I was bloated. I didn't know I had digestive issues, which I'll lead into what
Mm.
happened after 30 days, but I did know I was bloated, which I know that's, digestive issues, but you feel the bloat. But farting and
Yeah.
going to the bathroom all the time and spending hours on the toilet, like that stuff's normal. So I didn't realize I had
Right.
actual
Yeah.
digestive issues.
Yeah.
I was also constantly inflamed. I have arthritis, bursitis, tendon, all the itises in my one knee because I've had multiple knee surgeries. I still have hardware in
Right.
there. And my surgeon actually said that, I might need a knee replacement because I was close on needing a partial replacement during my surgery, but he was able to save my kneecap, my patella. But
Right.
he's like, you're gonna live with it's chronic bursitis. So he's like,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a problem, for the rest of your life. Most likely, you're likely gonna need a knee replacement, like all these things. So I wouldn't be able to sit for long periods of time. I wouldn't be able to stand for long periods. It would get stiff. It would creak. It would crack. I wouldn't be able to go up and down the stairs. We live on the third floor of our condo building. We would always have to take the elevator, not because I didn't want to take the stairs, but it was uncomfortable, especially going down the stairs was very uncomfortable because that extra
Yeah.
pressure on the front of your knee.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so now I'm running up and down the stairs now. I don't take the elevator anymore. But 30 days in, I noticed my bloat went down and I said, no shit. Wait, am I allowed to curse? I'm sorry. No
No, no, you're
crap.
good. You're good.
I was like, no shit. I had digestive issues. Like, I had no idea. I was even constipated.
Yeah.
Apparently, I have no gas anymore. Like, I go to the bathroom maybe once a day, once every other day, and it's easy. I'm
Yeah.
in and out. It's great. Function like a well-oiled machine. um, but I'm not bloated. So I noticed a bloat, and that's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I noticed a bloat went down in about 30 days in. 45 days in, I had I had anxiety and which sometimes would lead to depression. So my anxiety was more so like the negative self-talk and all that
Mm.
stuff. Lack of self-confidence and all that. So I'm a business owner in the nutrition space, so I give a lot of talks and workshops and seminars, education and stuff. About I always had a physiological response, like sweats, sweating, rapid heartbeat, just trying not to pass
Yeah.
out, just trying to survive, like that sort of thing, like outer body experience. I would be talking, but I
Yeah.
have no idea what the heck is happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
45 days in, and I remember this because I've never experienced this before. I actually called my dad afterwards. I gave my talk. I gave a talk in person, and I
Right.
haven't done a lot of in person up until this point because you know, the world was
Yeah.
shut down. Um, it was about 50 people, 50 business owners and professionals in a room. It's a lot of people. And normally I get nervous. I stood up there, my presentation up on the screen. I delivered my talk. And afterwards, I reflected and I was like, I had no response. None. I didn't even have a bead of sweat. My heart wasn't racing. I didn't have cotton mouth. I was very cool, calm, and collected. And I was like, what the hell just happened? I called my dad on the way home because I've never experienced that before. Like that level of confidence. And now I talk all the time. I give talk. I just gave a talk earlier this week. I give a talk all the time. It's the same. I thought maybe it was a fluke. I have never had a physiological response, a nervous response since going low carb. I
Wow.
have never I have no response. So that was like the biggest change, was the stage fright, the confidence, um, but of course the weight loss. So I've lost about 65, 70 pounds so far. So I have about 15-ish more to go. So I'm almost there. Like I said, I can go up and down the stairs now. I don't have sleep apnea. Similar to you, I don't go to the doctor, so I don't know where the hell my blood pressure is now, but they kept wanting to give me meds, but I knew if I
Yeah.
lost the weight, like a lot of these things can rectify themselves, but I never took the meds. Um, but yeah, I don't know where my blood pressure is now. Hopefully it's good. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
I'm not dead, so I guess it's okay. So like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I haven't gone to the doctors, but I feel better in my 40s than I ever did in my 20s
Yeah.
and 30s. But similar to you, my mental health has outside of weight, like my mental health, because I went into this initially just to see if I get my knee feeling better.
Right.
Because I was like, "My knee's inflamed, I have all the itises, literally, arthritis, bursitis, tendonitis, like, all the itises." I don't know if there's any more itises, if there are, I probably have those too, like, in my knee, and I had to stop CrossFit, I couldn't go to full depth squats, or any of those things because it was uncomfortable. So I tested my knee strength. About 30 days in, I did single leg presses. I go to a regular Globo gym now on my right knee. I just wanted to isolate it to see where my strength was. My left knee, I was like 60 something pounds. I could have gone more, but I want to test my right knee. So I did my right knee. I was like
Yeah.
45 pounds with
Oh.
discomfort. So then 2 months in, so 30 days later, I was like, well, let me
Yeah.
test it again. Because I was low carb, for about 60 days at this point and I was able to push 65 pounds, no discomfort, no pain, not even the next day. So I was like,
Wow.
"Huh." I was like, "Interesting." So yeah, there's like no I don't know if I still have arthritis. Because you would have to get like an X-ray, MRI, and those things are expensive. So I haven't
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
like looked to see if it's still there, but I
Yeah.
don't feel it. If it is there, I don't feel that it's still there. So I
Right.
don't
Right.
know if you can get. I know it's inflammation, so I don't know like if arthritis and all these things actually go away or not. But I will say, I don't. If I still have it, I don't feel it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
like
that's what matters, really.
I yeah, and I can go up and down the stairs, and yeah, I'm just like I just feel incredible.
That is amazing. And congratulations on all the things you've achieved
Thank you.
in the span of a few months, really. Um,
Yeah.
hey, going back a bit, sorry, how much weight did you say you lost in total?
Total. So I don't weigh myself. So here's what happened. So I got the vid back in November
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
got it. I got it bad.
You got it
So I
bad.
actually I did. I was vomiting bile. Like I had bad, no, it was
Oh,
bad nausea.
oh,
Oh yeah, it
okay.
was bad. So we live across the street from the hospital,
Yeah, yeah.
thankfully. So I went over to the hospital, yeah, and they weigh you, right? Whenever you go to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
doctor or the hospital, they weigh
yeah.
you.
They're gonna
So
weigh.
I
Yeah,
honestly, when people would ask me how much weight I lost, I don't know. I don't weigh myself. I hate the scale. It's not accurate. It doesn't show fat loss. It's mostly hormonal fluctuations. Like I just don't
yeah,
like the
yeah,
scale. I go by clothes. But they had me step on the scale. When I stepped on the scale in November, I was 50 pounds down from the last time I weighed myself. Um, but I've lost weight since because I've dropped a pant size since then.
yeah, yeah.
So, not knowing the exact weight, I would, if I had to guess, probably total 65, 70 pounds total. I have about one more pant size I'd like to
Well
drop and I'll
done.
be at my goal. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing,
Yeah.
and congratulations with that.
Thank you.
It's so interesting that I can share so many parallels with you just with your
Yeah.
journey. And we've talked about this in when we interview me, but it's amazing, really. Um, I mean, you trained as a nutritionist, right? So
Yeah.
in a course of nutrition. Um, Now the things that you've learned obviously are going to be against um what you've learned outside of your training. So I'm not sure if you were taught about carbohydrates and I guess what you've been taught about carbs in that course, but definitely from my training, I knew that that I was told that we needed carbohydrates in our body.
Yeah.
Same with you, or
In
yeah,
yeah, so in nutrition, there's essential and non-essential.
right,
Um, people a lot of people misuse the term essential when it comes to the nutrition, the science of nutrition. So,
yeah,
for instance, there's people that say fiber is essential, and I think they just
yeah,
mean important. But in the world of nutrition, essential means that your body can't synthesize
yeah,
those nutrients. You need to get them from food, and non-essential means your body can synthesize it, so it's not essential. You don't need, for instance, carbohydrates. Our body can synthesize its own glucose for non-carb sources, such as amino acids. So we are taught gluconeogenesis and all this stuff, and we're taught that carbohydrates are non-essential. So in the world of nutrition,
mm,
that's what essential truly means, and that's what
right,
non-essential means. So if you ever hear someone saying fiber is essential in the nutrition space, that's not what essential means. um, but yeah, we are taught that, but we are also taught that glucose is our preferred energy source, and
right,
fat ketones is our body's backup or emergency. So
mm,
that's what we're taught. We're we're also taught the main difference between our, my training and a registered dietitian's training
yeah, yeah,
is they are taught, because Seventh Day Adventists, I mean, that's a whole different
yeah,
conversation, but
yeah, yeah,
they're taught um to not eat saturated fat and all that stuff. Like they demonize it, and they're taught mostly a plant-based diet. That's why a
right,
lot of these
mm,
registered dietitians you see on YouTube largely eat fiber and vegetables and fruit. That's really all they eat, or a chicken breast or something like that. They don't eat red meat, they don't eat saturated fat, they don't eat chicken
no,
thighs. It's all lean and green. My training, however, yes, we are taught the dietary guidelines and the
yeah,
importance of fiber. We're taught we can't digest or absorb fiber, but we need to consume fiber. Like, we're taught these things. But the main difference is when it comes to saturated fat and cholesterol. I'm taught, so in my books, we have a section that talks about the studies about saturated fat causes coronary heart disease and all
mm,
that stuff. But my training debunks that, and they mention the
right.
meta-analysis and all that
Oh,
stuff that's kind of proven that wrong.
oh, really?
So
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Oh,
so that's the
good.
main difference. So we are told that saturated fat and things like cholesterol are important for bodily functions. Our cells are cholesterol, our brains are cholesterol, like a lot, right? But we're
Yeah,
also taught that we want to limit those things, because that we're still taught that cholesterol leads to, it clogs your arteries and all this stuff. So it's kind of conflicting in a way, like we're told it's important and in the true term essential, because our body can't synthesize its own. It
Yeah.
can to some extent cholesterol, but not nearly enough that our body needs.
Mm.
But we're told to limit those things and to eat
Right.
more lean foods and less beef and things like that. So it's kind of conflicting in a way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's the one major difference between my training and what I believe registered dietitians are taught. Because at least I'm taught that saturated fat is good and we need it. And I don't know that they're taught that, but that that I think is a long way of answering your question about
Yeah. Yeah.
carbs. 'Cause it's my training is very nuanced.
It is. Actually,
Yeah.
I didn't expect uh that they're teaching the science behind I mean that they actually are now talking about saturated fat and cholesterol being a good thing. So
Yeah, but
that
limit it. Yeah.
limit, yeah.
Yeah. So we're
Well, at
told that
least
it's a
it's
good thing, but limit it, but at least we're told it's a good thing.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least you're told it's a good thing. And I
Mhm.
honestly cannot remember anything in my training that mentioned saturated fat or cholesterol being a good thing. So at least
Yeah.
we're taking a step towards
A little bit, a little
yeah,
bit. Well,
little
I'm
bits,
allowed
yeah.
to be a free thinker too. I'm not
Yeah, you are.
regulated
Yeah,
or
you're not.
bound by the guidelines or licensed or all that
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
I think that's the difference, because they're bound by their training and they can't
That's right.
deviate from their
Yes,
training. I'm
correct.
taught certain things,
Yeah,
but because I'm not a registered dietitian, I can deviate from my training. And my training, they do their own science, like PhDs and all that stuff, who come
yeah,
up with the
yeah,
coursework, but they're allowed to be free thinkers too.
yeah.
Um, so I like that they put that study, that big meta-analysis in my training, in that chapter, which is kind of cool.
That is very cool. That is awesome. So I guess being an athlete yourself and train. So tell us how you feel, or if you can compare the two periods of your life where you were training with eating carbohydrates and without eating carbohydrates. What are some of the differences you've noticed?
Um, well, with carbs, I mean, I was constantly eating
Yeah,
with carbs. So I would get home from the gym and I'd make a shake, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because was bro. So
yeah,
so but now like I said, like I have no pain and I feel like I'm stronger. So I was always strong for my size. Like I was a
yeah, yeah.
powerlifter and
Yeah,
especially in my upper
shorties.
body, yeah, especially in my upper body, I'm strong as hell.
Yeah,
Um but I feel like I'm stronger and I have more sustained strength.
yeah.
Um I do feel sometimes I get depleted a little faster, not with
Mm,
carbs, but um I'm also not working out very consistently at the moment just 'cause I've been extremely busy. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think I think the more the more I work out and the longer I do this, I think that will improve. But I do notice I am stronger and my strength is
yeah.
sustained. I feel like my strength doesn't get depleted
Mm,
as quickly, but my endurance I notice is a little lower. But that's probably because my fat intake was I had to gradually work to bump my fat intake up because I was very lean.
yeah. Right, right.
So I likely am not or was not consuming enough fat, so I can't give a 100% like definitive like this suffered because of the carbs. I could just say
Yeah,
it's likely because I'm not eating or I wasn't
yeah,
eating enough fat, but so my endurance isn't where it was, but I think that's
yeah, yeah.
because my diet's not 100% where it needs to be. But I have noticed my
Right.
strength has improved.
That's amazing. Yeah, I noticed a few changes well when I started training. So I for those who don't know, I trained in powerlifting for all of my 20s and basically stopped training for a good 2 years of my life, and only started training back in again once I went on carnivore. And the things that I noticed, Nicole, were, you know, funny enough, the thing that I noticed was I just wasn't thirsty in the gym. Did you ever notice that? Or
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm not there. I noticed I have to like consciously drink too because I'm
yeah,
not peeing as much as I was.
yeah,
And but the thing that you have to remember though is that you can eat a ribeye and that has like 2.2 ounces of water in it. So like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
hydrating with the foods. And I think that's a difference too, is we're eating the foods and it has a lot of water in the meats we're eating
Yeah, yeah.
naturally, like ounces of water. So if we're eating like all this meat, like I don't think we need to constantly have like a water bottle with us everywhere we go. That's just what I've
Oh,
noticed too. Yeah, that might be why though.
it might be. Yeah, it was just so interesting, and because I remember always having to bring, a
The
gallon of.
gallon water jug.
I used to chug that
Yeah,
down. No,
yeah,
I can honestly go through a session by having just, a sip of water by the fountain, and
yeah.
that's it. Um,
Same.
so yay,
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
yeah.
Um, and do you ever do you when you do train or work out, do you eat beforehand?
Um, so I try to work out midday. I'm not very good
Yeah.
at working out first thing in the morning.
Oh no, no, me
But I
too.
work
No.
out midday. Yeah, so I eat
Yeah.
2 meals a day. So I guess two
Yeah.
mad.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I work out. I'll have my first meal of the day somewhere between 9 and 10 a.m.
Right.
and I'll try to get to the gym by maybe 11, 12. Um, so yeah, I work out after I eat. So I don't do as well working out fasted.
Yeah.
I've tried. I do better after a meal. So yeah, I work out after a meal and I'm like I definitely that might be why I have more sustained strength too.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can because I lift. I do very minimal I'll walk on the treadmill. I don't run
Yeah.
anymore or
Yeah.
do any of that stuff. I mostly lift. But yeah, I feel like I can lift heavier for longer. I'm not trying to lift, you know, my
Yeah.
one rep max anymore. I'm just trying to lift just to be healthy and maintain strength. But I think that might be why too. Because one, you're eating fat, and of course that
Yeah.
helps. But I think because I'm not working out fasted, I think that helps too. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, actually, let's go back a bit. What does your diet look like on a day-to-day basis?
Um,
So we do two mad. So yeah, we
this
do.
yeah, so I made a big pot of chili. I know after tonight I'm gonna have like a little pieces of steak 'cause I didn't eat enough today, but
Yeah.
I did put tomato paste and some diced tomatoes in the chili because my
Yeah.
husband's not doing what I'm doing and I've
Right.
never asked him to. He has cut his carbs, like he'll eat like
Yeah.
half the bun or a handful of fries instead of the whole serving of fries, but I can't deprive him of like an actual chili. Um but I don't use beans in the chili, it's just beef, full fat cream cheese, a whole block. If you haven't tried it, it's awesome.
Oh.
Beef bone broth,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, the only non-carnivore thing is just the tomato paste and diced tomatoes because he's not
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing, and it's not gonna kill him.
Yeah.
But mostly outside of those things here and there, and outside of the berries, I do have berries, so I do
Mm.
have strawberries and blueberries in my fridge, um, and I'm not afraid of the oxalates and the blueberries because I don't eat
Yeah.
a lot. I just grab a little
A lot of it.
handful,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect me. I do have nuts every once in a while. Like I had a handful of nuts earlier. Maybe half an avocado a couple times a week. So like I'm very minimal carbs, but I do eat those are primarily the
Mm,
carbs I
mm.
eat.
Yeah.
Outside of those minimal carbs, my diet is really the B and E. So just beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. That's literally what I eat every day. I'll have either my favorite meal is two beef hamburger patties with bacon and cheese.
Yum.
That's where the avocado comes into play. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
top
Yeah.
it with half an avocado,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
all the fats in there. But yeah, so that's probably my favorite meal. Just because before I switched, Joff, I can count on two hands how many times I've had steak and actual beef burgers in my entire life because I was very lean. I was eating all the
Right.
I was eating all the black bean burgers, the turkey burgers, the chicken breast, the ground turkey, like,
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
grew up eating. I didn't eat beef, I didn't eat red meat because it's bad. So now that I'm eating it, that's all I want. I just want the beef. I just crave, like, the beef. I even cook my patties, my beef patties. I put them in the oven because I like baking them because
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
take a little bit of butter and then I'll
Right.
put a little bit of butter on top of each patty and bake it in the oven with the butter on it, and you get that soaked up butter juices in
Oh,
there. It is so juicy and so good. So yeah, that's probably my favorite meal.
right.
It's so
Thank you for that
simple, but it's
idea.
so good. Yeah,
I'm gonna try that. I didn't think about putting the beef patties in the oven. I'm a very
beef
simple
butter.
guy. Throw it in a pan.
I don't like
Oh.
cooking. Like, everyone's like, "You're a nutrition." Yeah, I'm not a chef, though. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like standing over the stove and flipping the meat. That's just not fun to me. So, the other thing I do is I use a crock pot a lot. I'll
Yes,
put my
yes.
steak I put my steak in the crock pot,
Right.
and what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of bone broth, beef bone broth in there because again, you get that extra fat and the extra nutrients in there, and I'll
Oh,
coat the whole bottom of the crock pot and just let the steak just simmer in the bone
yeah,
broth
yeah.
for, like, 2, 3 hours. It's so tender and so good. So I use a
Oh,
crock pot in the oven. I try not to stand over the stove.
okay. Noted.
Yeah.
That's very different. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love the crock pot. I could, throw anything in there and anything that comes out
Exactly.
with bone broth. Oh,
I'm telling you.
amazing. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
that's pretty much what
oh
I eat though. Just yeah,
yeah,
beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, and then those minimal
and the
carbs I mentioned.
additional.
That's pretty much what my diet looks like. Yeah.
That's great, honestly. Uh, I think if people want to include these things in their diet, that it's total, personal preference. I
Yeah.
personally don't like the I guess the labeling in this low carb
The
space.
dogma.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dogma.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to eat it and you feel like you can tolerate it, do it, man. Like that it's your
Yeah.
it's your life.
It's not gonna kill you. And like I say,
No.
find your I always say, and I even say this to my clients, find your top 3 non-negotiables. Like,
Yeah.
what can't you live with for the rest of your life? Because whatever you do has to be sustainable. And I
Yeah.
knew going into this, I wasn't not gonna be able to have dark chocolate again for the rest of my life. So you bet your butt I have a little chocolate square every day.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I have my chocolate, leave me
Mm.
alone.
Yeah.
But but, like, I know I can't go the rest of my life without eating those. Who knows? Maybe that'll change down the line, but right now, this is what works for me. Now I have strawberries. I enjoy
Yeah.
strawberries. I
Yeah.
like the taste. They don't bother me, but it's the ultimate elimination diet. So, like,
Yeah.
if you're starting out, I struggle to get my fat where it needs to be. It was just these past 2 weeks actually where I feel like I found the sweet spot where I'm losing
Right.
weight again to where my fat is where it needs to be because most
Right.
women, I feel like, struggle with this more than men because,
Okay.
women are known to have chicken salads or
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
women are vegan than men. Like we're very, you know what I mean? We're not
Yeah.
known to eat a big juicy steak. And I'm not saying women don't, but the vast
Yeah.
majority don't. And I didn't. So I was coming from super lean, not eating fat at all. Very rarely
Right.
do I eat red meat. So making this shift, it was very hard for me to get my intake up. Not because it didn't taste good, but I wasn't used to eating those foods. And I was gaining weight a little bit because I guess my body just wanted all the fat. Like I was just like, so now I feel like I found my sweet spot where I feel like my satiety, like my hormones are in balance and regulated. I feel like everything kind of caught up and everything's functioning optimally. So I feel like I'm losing weight again. I'm where I need to be. So I feel like if you're just starting out, BBB and E, and
Yes.
that's why I started doing this, is so easy because it has all the nutrients you need. you're not going to be deficient in protein, and it has all the fat you need. So it's eating those foods gives you everything you need, and it's the easiest way to get your fat where it needs to be.
Right,
So
right.
that's why I started doing that the last couple months, and it's been working. Um, so who knows? Maybe after a while I'll, get my carbs down a little bit more, but I never intended to go ketovore, I guess if I had to
No,
label
no.
it, that's what I would be. I
Yeah.
actually intended to go keto, and I guess I landed here, and this is just where I stayed. So
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
intended to go zero. Like that was
Yeah.
never my intention, but I also never intended to go as low as I did. So who knows, maybe one day I will be zero, but right now, yeah, this
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much works for me for the most part. I got rid of all my issues. I don't have any adverse effects. I did have to cut my dairy. I do have dairy. I did
Oh,
have to
right.
cut
Yeah.
my cheese in half.
Right.
So I would have like maybe cheese on one of the burger patties and not the other, because I do notice I get puffy, especially my jawline.
Right,
I'll
right.
get like my face will get puffy. So I did have to cut my dairy down a little bit, but I do have dairy, but I did have to cut that in half. That was the one thing I've had to do so far, but outside of that, everything I have in my diet seems to work so far.
That's good. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Um, now, back to when you first started, I guess the low carb diet. Did you have any issues or barriers when starting off? Like for me personally, the biggest thing for me was the social aspect of things
Oh.
and eating out.
Um,
It's more so with carnivore, really, but yeah,
um, no. Um, so I do a lot of, well, I guess no and yes. So when I'm going out with friends, no.
yeah.
And there's a yes component to this because
Oh,
there's the
okay.
business side. So friends and family, no, because I don't have an issue with ordering. Like my mom and I went on a cruise in May,
Yeah,
and most of the foods have carbs and veggies and all that stuff with it, right? You can't just order
yeah,
a slab of meat. I
yeah,
did
yeah,
though. So we were on a cruise, and all the steak comes with like mashed potatoes and green beans, asparagus. Now there were a couple times where I had the asparagus and things like that, because
yeah,
again,
yeah,
my
yeah,
intention isn't to go completely zero. It's just I
yeah,
did
yeah.
eliminate most of it, and every once in a while I'll have some stuff, but for the most part, no, I just ordered the slab of meat. And I do get looks every time I say no sides.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and I said I don't want vegetables, I just want the piece of steak. And I do
yeah.
get a little bit of pushback from the wait staff, like when I go out and I ordered a slab of meat. But the people I'm with, no, because everyone knows what I'm doing, and they're supportive. They
That's
may
good.
ask
Yeah,
questions. Um,
yeah.
but the only problem that comes into play is networking events. Because again,
Right.
business owner, I have to do a lot of
Oh,
networking, and they
yeah,
feed you, right? Especially these evening events, like I'm doing one next week, and it's a happy hour, so and it's at 4 p.m. So a lot of these events are at 4, which stinks because I eat about 5, 6 p.m.
yeah, yeah.
So I have to force myself sometimes to eat before I go to these things. So it's either that or I start to get a headache because I went too long without eating.
Yeah,
So
without eating. Yeah.
that that I
Mm,
think is harder than the personal aspect, is the professional aspect of things, because I have to time my meals for the time of the events, because I know these events aren't going to have really very many things that I want to eat.
yeah.
So that's difficult.
Mm, mm, mm.
That's more difficult than going out with friends and family, is the professional things, like having to adjust my eating for the
Yeah.
events kind of stinks.
And I guess I'm assuming, do people around you as well in your personal uh life eat a carnivore diet or sorry, eat low carb or
Um, my husband, so it's just me and my husband. We don't
yeah.
have kids. Him, no. And I never asked him
Okay.
to, but he sees um how well I'm doing, and he listens to me on my phone calls
Yeah.
sometimes, like not
Yeah.
eavesdropping, but he overhears things. And he asks questions, so he's interested in learning.
Yeah.
Um, but while he's not low carb, he has cut down.
Yeah.
So he'll
Yeah.
eat Yeah, so he does eat a lot of sandwiches, but when we go out and he gets a cheeseburger, of course, I just get the slab of patty and
Yeah, the
the
patty.
stuff,
Yeah.
but he'll get the actual burger and he'll just eat half the bun. He'll take like either the top or bottom bun off, take it
Good,
away,
good.
and then he'll just eat half. So he's made small changes like that,
Yeah.
which he said he notices differences and changes and he feels better just by doing that. But I don't think he has no interest in doing what I'm doing. My mom so my family lives in New Jersey. I'm in
Yeah.
Virginia, so we live close enough to it's drivable, but not close enough to where I
Yeah.
can see them every day. But my mom is she's interested in trying the Atkins diet again, which is pretty
Right.
much
Right.
what
Yeah.
I'm doing, but it's
Yeah.
more carbs. It's like keto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's more carbs than what I'm eating, but she's interested in doing that, so I'm trying to help
Good,
her.
good.
She's also a nurse. Um,
Ah.
so I'm, so I'm trying to help her kind of get where she wants to be. My dad, he's type 2 diabetic. He's obese. I really wish he would. He really needs this is what he needs to be doing, but yeah, he doesn't listen to me or my mom, but he's he'll try every once in a while. He'll try to make changes, but he's not interested. But him out of all of us is the one that really needs to do this, but maybe if my mom gets there, maybe he'll be more,
Yeah. Yeah.
apt to try to give it a go. But right now my mom is the only one who's kind of interested in trying to
Yeah.
do this. She did
Yeah.
Atkins back when it first came out back in the
Yeah. Yeah.
80s, I think. And she said she felt great and it worked for her.
Mm, mm.
So I think since I've been doing it, she's mentioned that she wants to try and I do have a low carb program that's kind of like membership. It's kind of like a members program. So I enrolled her in that. Uh, so she's going
Nice.
through that now.
Nice. Nice.
So hopefully by the end, hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll kind of get her there. So at least she was willing to enroll in the program for free because she's my mom. But at
Yeah.
least she's
Yeah.
in the, she's going through the program now. So we'll see where she's at when she's finished it. But hopefully she'll get there. Hopefully she'll get there. But yeah, she's the only one. My husband and my dad so far no.
That's okay. And again, each
Yeah.
to their own, really. We can't
Yeah.
force people to do these
No.
things. Um,
No.
and as a nutritionist, that sort of goes against the grain of dietary guidelines.
Yeah.
Um, how do you deal with it?
Oh
With
God.
the amount of misinformation that you get
Oh
from
yeah. Oh,
public,
it's hard.
and the type of clients that you get, that
Yeah.
tell you, oh, the doctors have said this, or I've seen a dietitian and has said this sort of thing. How do
Oh,
you
I
deal with
have
it?
a
How do you
story.
redirect? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a story for you with that. So a
Go.
couple actually. I don't just go against the dietary guidelines. I go against all guidelines.
Yeah,
Even the
yeah,
diabetic diet
yeah.
is BS. Um, so there's I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to say it. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I can't
Yes.
blame people for not knowing what to believe or what not to believe. Because I was formally taught the dietary guidelines. I was formally
Yes.
taught what everyone else is doing.
Mm-mm.
Um, I was just taught how our body works and processes nutrients, which now that I'm thinking about it, okay, that doesn't make sense with what we're taught to do now that you know what I mean? So I work a lot with obesity and diabetes, mainly, and
Mm-mm.
sugar, carb addiction, emotional eating. Those are like my three main specialties. So a lot of people, so essentially me, I work with
Yeah, yeah.
me, right? So I mean, it is, right? I was obese. I was, emotional eater, binge eating tendencies, all that stuff. I don't know if I had diabetes, but most
Mm.
of my clients need to lose over 60 pounds.
Yeah.
And most of them are type 2 diabetic. Um, so one story I'll share, because you mentioned doctors. He's going to an endocrinologist. Uh, I forget how much weight he's lost so far because I've been working with him for a super long time, but his A1C was in the nines. when he came to me. It was crazy, crazy. And he was a type 2. He had damn near 100 pounds to lose. And he he messaged me, I think, at one point when he was in the endocrinologist's office, I think 6 months ago. He goes
Mm.
every 3 months. Asked me questions and all that stuff, and because I guess his doctor was asking him what I'm having him do when we're playing a game of telephone, so I was answering her
Yeah.
questions through him. And his A1C at that point was down to it was in the sevens. So we got it from a 9 to a 7. I think that's why she was asking him a bunch of questions like, what am I having him do?
Yeah.
What does his
Yeah.
diet look like? So all that stuff. And he said, and she was like, yep, whatever she has you do, just keep doing it. And we're like, cool. Here's what happened. This last time he went a week or two ago, and his A1C was a 6.1. So he's now
Oh, wow.
pre-diabetic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we're so close to reversing. So he's from
Yeah.
type 2, now he's pre. So what does his doctor do? Gives him the prescription for Trulicity and
Oh.
sends him home with a bunch of overnight oat recipes. I'm like, what? But but that's on the diabetic diet. That's okay from the American Diabetes Association, right? Oatmeal's okay. So it's really hard working with people with chronic issues when you have doctors interfering with what's working, like
Yeah.
giving a script for Trulicity when we're we're almost reversing his diabetes. Now you want to give him a
Yeah.
prescription? Like, and now you're going to give him oatmeal when you know he's on a high fat, high protein diet and low carb diet. Like, so it's like I want to beat my head against a wall sometimes because
Yeah.
doctors aren't educated at all. And I'm not saying our education is golden, but I mean, at
Yeah.
least we're educated. Um,
Mm.
but that's one of my biggest struggles with the clients I work with because they are coming to me with chronic issues like
Yeah.
diabetes and obesity, and I have doctors giving them things and telling them things that go against what's working and what we're working on. So that's one story. Um, that gives I think just stories are easier to kind of
Yeah.
explain
Yeah.
some of the issues with what I'm trying to do and what mainstream. And then this next one is I worked with this person for a month. He's 72. No, I'm sorry. Was he 72? No, he was eight. He had just turned 80. So I'm senior
Oh,
nutrition
wow.
certified
Okay.
as well. So I'm specifically certified in 65 plus. So I have that
65
extra
plus.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So he came to me. He had cardiovascular disease. And he was afraid of red meat. And his
Mm.
doctor told him to go on the Ornish diet, which is a plant-based diet.
Oh, okay. Right.
Um, so I was explaining to him over the phone. We had like an hour and a half conversation. This is before he signed with me on how the body works and how, what fuels what your cells are made of, what just all these things, just basic biology, like education. His question was, well, if saturated fat doesn't cause cardiovascular disease or cholesterol or LDL, what does? And I said, well, I believe that it's sugar. It's not feeding your body the proper fuel and
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
things, and things start to
Yeah.
break down. And he had a hard time believing that. And I understand because he has issues with his heart and he's scared and nervous, and he
Mm.
was
Mm.
told by his doctor saturated fat bad. So that's a huge issue. That's a huge issue. So it's very hard for low carb dietitians, nutritionists, just people in my field to do our job because we have
Yeah.
doctors kind of giving conflicting information. So I don't know how to change that. So I don't think it's the person doesn't understand or doesn't want to believe you, but because there's an MD at
That's
the
right.
end of their
Yeah.
name, they think they know everything, but that's not
That's
their
it. Yeah.
specialty.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem, and that's the biggest hurdle for me and others like me, in my opinion, is because we're going against the mainstream. and we're going against the grain. Um, we have clients or patients being told one thing, and
Yeah.
then we're telling them the complete opposite thing, and they're super confused, and they're going to believe their doctor over someone, no matter who's trained in what. They're always going to believe their doctor because they're a doctor.
Mm, mm, mm.
So,
I feel
yeah,
I
it's a
feel
huge
you.
problem. Yeah.
I feel you. Yep. I experienced very similar in my line of
Yeah.
duty. Um, but you know, we can only do what we can do, and you know, it's up to people like us, I guess, Nicole, to push it through this message
Yeah.
through other means like social media, and just to, you know, influence somehow in our personal circle of people that we know. And I think, you know, we have to start somewhere. And yeah, just, you know, a little bit of a story as well, just a quick one. You know, I've worked as a nurse for 13 years, and I've dealt with diabetics and people who are obese, and I've been trying to, you know, ever since going low carb, trying to tell people, you know, have you ever thought of going off insulin?
Yeah.
um I've not had any success with anyone.
Really?
Nope, no success. I've got one colleague who I actually did an interview with, my previous video. He's I think in the time he's done nursing, he's convinced two people to get off insulin and change their diet, and he's far more experienced than I am. So it is
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah,
It depends on how you tell them to change their diet too. Like I just had a conversation with someone this morning actually, and she's on insulin. She has insulin
yeah.
resistance, and her doctor, I was telling her, I was like, you need to you eh, diabetes is a glucose problem, which means it's a carb problem. You need to
Yeah.
lower your carbs. And she's like, oh well, my doctor told me to lower my fat and increase my
Oh,
plants.
yeah.
I'm like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I tried to educate her as a friend, but I can't she's not gonna believe me over a doctor, but
No,
that's
no.
what these doctors are that's a
Yeah,
my big thing is, and I'm gonna try my best not to get on a soapbox because this really infuriates me. I don't pretend to be a personal trainer. I'll
yeah,
I'll give
yeah,
basic body weight exercises, but if someone wants me to program a workout routine, I am very quick to say I'm not a personal trainer. Like, I
yeah,
don't wanna hurt you, like, I'm not trained in anatomy, physiology, how your body moves,
yeah.
all that stuff, like, that's not what I'm trained in. Um, so that's the same with doctors, they're not trained in nutrition. They
Mm,
get
mm, mm.
one class and it's how to feed people through a feeding tube.
Yeah,
They don't know
yeah.
how we absorb nutrients and that fiber can actually make women, because fiber can bind to estrogen and we can actually lose
Mm,
estrogen because we excrete fiber out. Like, they don't know these things, and they're given nutrition advice and bad advice, like telling a diabetic to lower their fat and increase plants.
mm.
Like, my big thing is stay in your lane. We all have specialties. You're a trained doctor in a certain specialty. You're not a specialist in cardiovascular or spinal health or
Yeah,
whatever. You're a doctor in whatever your specialty is. Stay there, and let the nutrition people, let that be our specialty. Like,
yeah,
just
yeah,
I just wish people would just same with personal trainers, like, stay in your lane. Like, I just wish
yeah,
people would just stay in their lane. I'm not saying you can't give general, like, nutrition opinions or advice, but when you're
yeah, yeah,
guiding people with actual issues and giving them bad advice,
yeah,
like, my big thing is just you have a specialty, stay there.
yeah,
Just stay
yeah,
in your specialty. I don't pretend to be a doctor. I'm not I'm not I'm not a nurse. Like, I'm not
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say, "Sure, I'll give you that injection." Like,
yeah,
just
yeah,
stay in your lane. That's me not getting on my soapbox, but I just
yeah.
don't understand why this is such a difficult concept for people to understand.
Right, right. Yeah, it's very difficult. Um, but I guess, look, Nicole, I think that uh we'll wrap up from here. Can you please tell us where people can find you? Tell us, you know, what social media you're on and what sort of services you provide.
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much all the social media. So I'm a Nutrition Talk from a Former Fat Girl on
Yeah.
YouTube. Uh I do a lot of reaction videos, and interviews like this. I'm on Instagram. I think my IG handle is, there's a lot of underscores, fat
Yeah.
underscore, no, former underscore fat underscore girl 80. And then I also have a Facebook page, same, nutrition talk from a former fat girl. But yeah, my link tree and my website and all that is on my YouTube channel along with my email address. So yeah, so if anyone wants to have a chat about nutrition or do an interview, yeah, my email and all my links are on my YouTube page.
Awesome. So I'll have all those links up on the description of this video. Um, so I want to say thank you, Nicole. It's honestly been a pleasure to have a chat with you and talk about these things. Um, and yeah, guys, thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.